6 o'clock. Ready? Good evening. Welcome to the Cave Creek Unified School District Business Meeting. Today is Tuesday, December 10th, and it is 6 p.m. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, which will be led by our student leader, Zadie Jensen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Item 1.3, roll call. All members of the board are present. Members of the cabinet present are Dr. Plutnik, Dr. Fredrickson, Dr. Jensen, and of course, Mr. Dolezal. Item 1.4, formal adoption of the agenda. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Item 1.5, President's Report. Last week I had the honor and pleasure of attending the district's ALICE training, which is our training for active shooters?
Violent critical incidents.
Violent critical incidents. It was very, very informative, and I can say to our parents, please rest assured that the staff here is very well trained. So that is my report. Item 1.6, board comments. Anyone?
Anybody?
I got nothing ready this week.
Anybody?
I've attended a few things last week. Our winter sports are just getting started. Attended the 7th grade Sonoran Trails volleyball game last week. So that was fun to watch, and I'm excited to get to some high school games, both for soccer and basketball, as those two have started. Also got to see the fine arts performance of, I just came to a blank. Into the Woods. Into the Woods. So that was a great show, followed by the next night, the company dance team's winter performance as well, which is one of my most favorite events that happens at the Fine Arts Center. So that's it for me right now.
All right. Well, I got to attend the was it 62nd annual Apprentice of Arizona gala, which was pretty cool. Where one of our students was recognized for the Apprentice of the Year out of 34 people. That was selected for that, and that person was the only high school individual from Cactus Shadows and only one of 2 females. So pretty cool there. Again, choir for our choir is phenomenal. It's really good. But more importantly, given kind of why it's so full tonight, I spent most of my time texting, emailing, and having phone calls with representatives, legislators, to try and draw awareness to the things that we're facing in our district. And with that is what I have so far.
I have the same, and I just wanted to extend my appreciation to everybody who has put time and energy into not only the calendar, but also school closures and all the different things that are facing the district. It's a lot to sort through. It's a lot to go through, as all of you know, and I just want you to know that even if I haven't gotten to the point of acknowledging an email or a receipt of something, I am going through those, gathering data, and it's very much appreciated. The impact that you're making and your dedication to not only the district, but certainly your children.
I would like to make one comment. Congratulations to your daughter, Dan, because his daughter is the one that was nominated for Apprentice of the Year. So,
thanks. I was trying not to do that.
You didn't. I did. Item 1.7, Superintendent's Report.
President Busby, members of the board. First, congratulations to Cactus Shadows cheer team for bringing the state championship back home to Cactus Shadows. As pointed out, our winter sports are underway. I've been able to attend the first home game for the girls and boys basketball and girls soccer. I look forward to attending upcoming boys soccer match and wrestling meets. Everybody is invited to come and cheer on our student athletes. I was also able to attend our winter band and chorus concerts. Our students are so talented, and they were certainly great kickstarts for getting into the holiday spirit. For everybody's knowledge, the Carefree Cave Creek Chamber of Commerce has informed us that CCUSD is a finalist for the best big business in the area. Finalists will be recognized and the winner announced at their annual celebration of excellence. And then I am proud to share some information about a couple of students. First, I attended the 62nd annual David G. Hollis Outstanding Apprentice Award ceremony, which was held at the end of Arizona Apprenticeship Week as proclaimed by Governor Hobbs. At the event, Cactus Shadow's very own, Sydney Moore, was honored as one of the state of Arizona's outstanding apprentices for her work as a chef. Sydney was one of only 32 award winners statewide, one of only 2 females, and the only high school student to earn the award this year. Next, Sonoran Trails student May Thorius was invited to attend Stanford University this past weekend as one of only 75 international participants in a meeting to address how AI can be used to ensure access to curriculum and instruction for students with learning differences. She worked alongside a select group of researchers, innovators, policymakers, and philanthropic leaders to set new directions in policy, innovation, and funding that will empower all students. This event was presented by the Stanford Accelerator for Learning with support from the Alana Foundation, the Children's Health Council, and the Stanford Institute for Human-Centered Artificial Intelligence. So congratulations, May Thorius. And last, but certainly not least, I'd like to introduce Zadie Jensen, who was our Student Leader of the Month, on the dais with us this evening.
My name is Zadie, and I have been attending Lone Mountain since first grade. Every year I have had amazing teachers who have encouraged me to become a better student by giving me creative assignments that are challenging to solve. They have also emphasized the importance of being a good friend and citizen while I work in a community of learning. One of the most important things I've learned is the engineering design process, which involves asking questions, imagining possibilities, planning projects, creating our projects, and improving the design after collecting initial results. The engineering design process not only helps me complete STEAM projects, it also helps me in my problems and at my everyday life. For example, someday I want to play college basketball at Duke University. To accomplish that goal, I need to ask questions such as, what do I need to learn in order to become an exceptional basketball player? Or who can teach me how to improve as a basketball player? I also need to imagine creative ways to use my time so that I can improve my skills. Sometimes that means practicing with my twin sister in the backyard. Other times it means watching dribbling videos on YouTube from WNBA coaches. These possibilities are part of a larger plan that I follow each week, month, and year so I can achieve my goal. I make lists and write down my plans on a calendar so that it is easy to follow. By following my plan, I am able to create new drills and new strategies to apply in the games that I play in on the weekends. Sometimes my strategies work, and sometimes they don't. Either way, I have to pay attention to their effects so that I can improve my plans moving forward. I know my school may have to close after this year. If I'm being honest, those plans make me sad because I have a lot of happy memories at Lone Mountain. But I know that the lessons I have learned at Lone Mountain will follow me into new situations that require me to be innovative and imagine new possibilities. I may need to ask questions out of curiosity instead of making judgments. I may need to imagine new ways to make friends in a new school community. I may need to plan for success so that I can make a difference at a new school. Of course, I'll have to pay attention to see if my strategies work. The important point is these lessons live beyond a classroom and a building because they travel to every part of my life. They become rooted as a community practice. I am excited to make new friends at Sonoran Trails next year, and I am sure that Mr. Boggs is a great principal for many reasons, not the least of which that he is funny and loves basketball, even though he's a KU fan. But I am most excited about taking a whole new set of classes so that I can keep learning and achieve my dreams.
And that concludes my superintendent's report.
Zadie, in a few years, we're going to be looking for you on the collegiate basketball court, so good luck. I'm sure you'll make it. Item 2.1 are December Students of the Month. It is with immense pleasure and pride that we come together to celebrate the extraordinary accomplishments of some truly exceptional individuals, our Students of the Month. Each month, we are privileged to recognize students who exemplify the core values that define our district: perseverance, leadership, compassion, and a relentless pursuit of excellence. Tonight, we are not just honoring academic achievement, but also the qualities that make our students well-rounded individuals and future leaders. The renowned American author and poet Maya Angelou, who once said, "Success is liking yourself, liking what you do, and liking how you do it." This sentiment perfectly encapsulates the essence of students we are celebrating tonight. They have not only achieved remarkable success, but have done so with a genuine passion and commitment to their craft. Our Students of the Month have shown us what it means to inspire excellence in everything they undertake. They have gone beyond their comfort zones, challenged themselves, and consistently demonstrated a willingness to learn and grow. They serve as beacons of inspiration for their peers and a source of immense pride for their families, teachers, and the entire community. Each student being recognized tonight has a unique story of dedication, hard work, and determination. Whether it's in academics, arts, athletics, community service, or leadership, these students have set a standard of excellence that we all can aspire to. They remind us that greatness is not a distant dream, but a tangible reality that can be achieved through unwavering commitment and a passion for what we do. As we honor our Students of the Month, let us also remember that their achievements are not solely their own. Behind every successful student stands a network of supportive parents, caring teachers, and a community that believes in their potential. It is with this collective effort together that nurtures the growth of these remarkable individuals. To the students being recognized tonight, I want to offer my heartfelt congratulations. Your dedication, enthusiasm, and commitment are an inspiration to us all. You represent the very best of Cave Creek Unified School District, and we are excited to witness the incredible contributions you will make to our world in the years to come. So, with that, I would like to ask the board to come up here, and as we will announce each student, and they will come forward, and the board will be able to congratulate them. From Black Mountain Elementary School, Sophie Penry. From Desert Sun Academy, Vivi Satrun. From Desert Willow, Vinny Russo. From Horseshoe Trails, Chloe Craigle. From Lone Mountain, Tallulah Calix. Also from Lone Mountain, Trevi Taylor. From Sonoran Trails, Macy Anderson. And from Cactus Shadows, Elliot Walker. Okay, parents, if you'd like to take a picture, please come up. All right, can we give one more last round of applause to our students? We will be taking a very quick 5-minute break, so if you would like to leave, this might be a good time. Of course, you are welcome to stay.
Parents, if you want a closer picture up here, now's the time.
Yep.
Let's go eat. No. No, I want to go. Well, take a picture so we can go. 1, 2, 3. No, just take a darn picture.
Oh, I know. Okay, you ready? Jill's, oh, okay.
Delayed game.
All right, where are we? Item 3, action consent. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Okay. Item 4.1, call to the public. All right. All right. Call to the public according to ARS 38-431.01H. Governing board members may not discuss or take legal action on matters raised during an open call to the public. The only allowable responses a governing board member may make are 1, board member may respond if there is a direct criticism of the board member. 2, a board member may direct staff to look into a matter. Or 3, a board member can ask to have this item placed on a future agenda. Speakers need to be mindful of what they say when presenting to the board. Inappropriate comments could be considered slanderous. Okay, since we have so many public comments, everybody will have a minute unless otherwise designated because individuals combine their time together. Our first speaker is Zach McQuain, and he will have 5 minutes.
President Busby, members of the board, members of the cabinet, so I won't take the full 5 minutes. On counsel of my wonderful wife, I'll keep it to the point, right? But I think I'll start with it. It's a testament to the number of folks that are involved in the conversation, want to have input, want to help with the district. We are here to help, and we want to help and have a conversation. So you'll hear from some of the family members that I've met with, my wife has met with, had conversations. You'll hear call-outs potentially on specific campuses. Our intentions are not to put one campus over another. Our intentions are to have a conversation and have the board and the administration acknowledge the fact that an additional conversation needs to have, more information needs to be put out to the public, and more details need to be looked at for potential scenarios that can help us grow together. So with that, I'll read my comments. So my name is Zach McQuain. I have 4 children currently in the district. I am deeply passionate about their education and ensuring that the district continues to thrive. I'm here tonight to respectfully ask that the board, and I'll amend this, either delay the vote on agenda item 6.1 or make adjustments to the process to ensure that all campuses are evaluated, that all financials are evaluated, and that we are comparing apples to apples when we look at the numbers overall in the budget. After reviewing the December 3rd presentation, meeting with parents and administrators, and consulting with the School Facilities Division, or the SFD, as you saw in the presentation, it's clear that there are still key issues that require further attention before moving forward. One important consideration is Arizona House Bill 2460, which requires that if the district closes a school and places the property for sale or lease, and an educational institution offers at or above fair market value, the district is obligated to award the contract to them. Understanding how this law applies is crucial to ensuring compliance and making sure the best use of these properties happens. Additionally, I reached out to the School Facilities Division, spoke to 3 different individuals, and learned that the district still has additional meetings and work to determine the financial implications fully. Without a clear understanding, the district could face significant burdens in the future. When campuses are closed and left vacant or leased, the district becomes fully responsible for maintenance costs, as SFD grants do not apply in these cases. These costs could quickly become unsustainable. I also have concerns about the financial implications of demolishing dams. Desert Arroyo Middle School. The SFD has recently started discussions around a program that could fund demolition, but this is a new program. One of the key requirements is detailed documentation about the building's preventative maintenance plan and its end of life. Given the condition of our schools, this may not be a feasible solution in the short term. Finally, it's important to note that the district office is located on an elementary school campus that has already been closed. This means the district could also be responsible for all preventative maintenance costs associated with that facility. This detail was not fully addressed in the presentation, but it adds another layer of financial responsibility to the district's overall costs. So given these concerns, I respectfully ask that the board either vote to stay the vote on agenda item 6.1 and create a board level committee to reevaluate the full picture on every campus, or at least have a conversation around amending the process and the public forums to ensure that all campuses are included in the conversation and the financials of all campuses are given to the public so we can have a detailed conversation and come together and make this work. Thank you for your time.
Next is Christine Harper, and she will have 1 minute.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Christine Harper, and I'm a community member, and I'm seriously concerned that as a district, we cannot fairly compensate our teachers. I sense that our teachers are at a breaking point, and we, as a community, will suffer the consequences for the decline in the quality of what happens in the public schools. I support doing whatever we need to do to find a way to fairly compensate our teachers and find a solution for the parents who cannot afford childcare to cover the 5th day that school may not be in session if it goes to 4-day weeks. My husband and I are willing to do our part to make this a reality.
Next is Katie Brill, and she will have 2 minutes.
President Busby, members of the board and cabinet, my name is Katie Brill, and my son is a 3rd grader at Lone Mountain Elementary. We have been part of this district since 2018 when he joined developmental preschool. Tonight, I respectfully request that you table the motion to approve public meetings on school closures or amend it and establish a board-level committee to more thoroughly investigate the impacts on students and the community. As a parent of a child with special needs, I am deeply concerned about the potential closure of Lone Mountain. My son has an IEP, and for children like him, a stable, familiar environment with a consistent routine and supportive community is vital for his success. The teachers at Lone Mountain have provided that for him, and disrupting this by moving him to a new classroom with over 30 students and likely no familiar faces or teachers is unacceptable. I have heard that students will have priority in open enrollment, but I want to ask, does this apply to children with IEPs? Currently, open enrollment for special education programs at each school is closed in the district and surrounding districts, leaving us with few or no options. If Lone Mountain closes, we'll be forced to look at private dyslexia schools. These options are costly, with tuition up to $30,000 a year, and they are far from home. ESA funds don't cover all of this, and if we are going to make this disruption in his life, we want it to be for meaningful change. Please, I urge you to delay or amend this vote and take the time to fully evaluate the impact of this decision, especially on our most vulnerable students. The community has valuable insights and expertise to offer, and we need to engage those voices to find solutions that protect the well-being of all our children. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Next is Oliver Purdue, and he will have 1 minute.
I have a lot to say, so I'm going to speak fast. As a senior at Cactus Shadows, I've seen many teachers leaving due to the injustices they have faced. While our district has the highest property values in the state, we have the lowest paid teachers in Maricopa. This has negatively impacted my education, and I am thankful for dedicated educators like Ms. Angela Thomas and Ms. Sophia Stumpo, and countless others that have gone above and beyond to ensure my success. Many of my friends have struggled due to our inability to provide more great teachers. Our difficulty in passing overrides places greater emphasis on the need for incentives to keep great teachers. While half-days were intended to provide prep time, they've been overshadowed by countless meetings and trainings, rendering the idea ineffective. A 4-day week helps conserve money, and especially during a time when teachers aren't even receiving raises and schools are closing. Research shows that 4-day weeks improve learning retention, attendance, teacher and student morale, and saves money. I urge the board to consider granting teachers a 4-day week, as their voices deserve to be heard. Or a raise.
Megan Marks, and she will have 1 minute.
All right. President Busby, members of the board and cabinet, my name is Megan Marks. I'm a parent of a 2nd and 3rd grader at Lone Mountain Elementary. We chose to open enroll at Lone Mountain in 2020 because of its large campus, its strong teachers, and the STEAM program, which aligns with my husband's and my educational values. The recent potential closure of Lone Mountain has raised some concerns for me, as we are a district for Desert Willow. I do know that their campus does lack adequate space for physical activities compared to Lone Mountain. As student numbers increase, with this issue may worsen. Additionally, Desert Willow's smaller campus may not support all of Lone Mountain's popular extracurricular activities, which my kids do participate in before and after school, such as soccer, football, and basketball. I also know that parking and access to Desert Willow are also already problematic, and I worry that adding more students will only exacerbate that problem. I just urge the board to please delay the vote and form a committee that includes community members with expertise in business management and land development. Together, I know we can explore alternative solutions that prioritize our children's health, safety, and education.
Next is James Kai, and he will have 2 minutes.
Good evening. Thank you guys for the time to come speak with you. President Busby, members of the board and staff, appreciate the time to speak here. My background is, my name is James Kai, my wife Lisa Kai, and I have 4 children in the district. We have kids ranging all the way from a senior at Cactus Shadows to a 1st grader at Lone Mountain. So across the board, I've been in the district quite a while and are committed to the community and the schools here. First, I wanted to acknowledge and appreciate the time and effort that has been put forth by all the participants in the focus group to make recommendations regarding making this very difficult decision. I know it's a really tough one for our entire district, and so I do acknowledge and appreciate all the time and effort that's been put into it. I've watched the December 3rd presentation and had opportunities to meet with parents, administration on the issue. In addition to being a parent here, I'm also, my background is as a business owner and land developer. And a North Star of the presentation was, what is the best for all students? I think to help meet that North Star, I believe it is important to determine that what is going to happen with the closed schools. It should be included with the recommendation, kind of going hand in hand. Each campus has a unique purpose in regards to its students and families, but it also has a different use from a real estate perspective as well. And I think that needs to go into the consideration. Financial ramifications after the school closure are part of that and will be made. With limiting those financial options is in effect limiting our financial viability. I use the example of Desert Arroyo Middle School and kind of what had happened in that situation. I think having a plan of what we're doing is very important that way. With my 19 seconds left, I appreciate the time. I would make a recommendation that we either stay the vote or create a committee that would bring additional community members that have expertise in these areas and look at all of the schools as a consideration versus just limiting it to the 2 schools and limiting our options. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Next is Andrea Jeanette, and she will have 1 minute.
Thank you, President Busby, the board, and the committee. My name is Andrea Jeanette, and I am here to support the teachers. I don't have a child or a grandchild or a niece or even a nephew in school, but I understand the value of education to our community. What I'm hearing is that our teachers are desperately trying to find a way to stay. They're asking for a 4-day work week so that they can take a second job, essentially subsidizing their teaching career on our behalf. Their dedication comes from the heart, not the pocketbook, and we as a community must reciprocate. If we can't find a way to accommodate working professionals who are bending over backwards to try to find a way to stay, if they are forced to leave just so that they can pay their bills, the district and our community will be severely diminished. There must be a way, and we must include and listen to the teachers in the process. Thank you.
Next is Dennis Ruley. He will have 1 minute.
I appreciate the opportunity to speak to you today on behalf of teachers. You've heard several people talk about the very same things that I want to. Oliver probably did it best. I would like to repeat his comments. However, I won't. One of the things that we need to balance is the needs of teachers with the needs of the community. And you can do that by passing that 4-day week. Please consider doing that. There are 4 reasons that you ought to be thinking seriously about it. It balances the needs and desires of teachers and staff with the communities. It helps keep focus on the community's need to pass that override. We need to be working solidly for that. It provides a token that may help retain teachers who might be thinking about leaving the profession or leaving for a different district. And fourthly, and most importantly, it gaslights the negative effect of so-called empowerment vouchers. Thank you.
Next is Ben Petro. He will have 3 minutes. Oh, he knows people.
All right, 3 minutes. People like me. My name is Benjamin Petro. I've got 2 kids, 3rd grade and pre-K at LMES. We moved here 4 years ago, specifically for the community and the school district. I've got a cousin that works as a teacher, another sister who works on the PTO, and I respectfully request that you delay the vote on school closures and establish a board-level committee to investigate the impacts on students, families, and the community. Lone Mountain, I attended the meeting on December 3rd last week, and we looked at all of the slides that were provided, and I appreciate all of the information that was given to us. You know, this is never an easy decision by anybody, and I appreciate that. I mean, I switched schools every single year while I was growing up, but I think that we need to take more time and take a look at all the different scenarios here, because when we were looking at the statistics at the December 3rd meeting, LMES was the only school since COVID, which was a hard time, that has a positive enrollment. It has gone up every single year, and yet we are looking to close that school. We have other schools that have been declining since then, and there's no school that's better than the other. I don't want to pit this against schools at all, but LMES, we are continually bringing in more people from in-district, out-of-district, and it's on a rise, and the projections continually show from December 3rd that we're going to go down, and I don't understand that, so I would like to really just delay this decision so we can take a look at all scenarios instead of just this single scenario that was presented to us for closing Desert Sun and LMES. I would like to look at all of the different scenarios available. And I just urge the board to vote and form a committee that includes community members with the expertise in business management, as well as land development and education, explore all the different scenarios that are out there. So I appreciate your guys' time. Thank you.
Next is Beth Ballman, and she will have 3 minutes.
President Busby and members of the board and staff, thank you for the opportunity to speak today. Can you guys hear me okay? Yeah. So first of all, I'm Beth Ballman. I've been a Cave Creek resident for 20 years. I've never had kids. I've never been a teacher, and I have not even set foot in a public school for 50 years. Okay, but I feel like public education is so important. I'm a product of public schools, and I feel like that's where I got my start. And the kids deserve to have the same kind of opportunity that I had. So I was at the meeting 2 weeks ago, and I was just devastated to hear from the teachers and to hear what they had to say. To have caring, committed teachers think that the only way that they could make ends meet was to get a second job was heartrending. So, oh my God, something has to be done. So, I couldn't be in the room without realizing that teachers are at a breaking point. And if we lose those teachers, which it feels to me like we're on the cusp of doing, that we really lose the heart of what makes it so we have the A-level schools. We have such strong schools here. It's attributable to many things, but the teachers are certainly the heart of it. So, and then I heard Superintendent Dolezal recommend a 5-day school week. And I know why he did it. I mean, oh my God, we've got declining enrollment. We've got a lot of issues here. There are things to consider, and parents do need a way to have their kids, be taken care of that 5th day. So what could we do? So I thought to myself, how could the community step up here? How could we find a compromise? And I said, what if there could be a way that the community could actually come in and somehow cover a 5th day? Maybe it wouldn't actually be a 5th day, but we've got a lot of really talented people in our community who I think could actually, I don't know if you go a substitute teacher route or how you actually handle it, but just think, right now, civics education, financial literacy, being safe on social media, how to engage in dialogue as a way of understanding people around us. There are so many things. Artists, hidden in the hills artists, reading books, so many things. And remember, I don't know too much about this whole world. I've been away from it for a long time. I'm sure there are logistical issues with that, but I want to say that, first of all, I really appreciate all the efforts that every stakeholder has made to figure out how we're going to do something about this. And I just want people to know that I, for one, am part of a community that I would like to make a difference, and I would like to engage other people in the community that maybe haven't been involved to date to figure out how we can support you guys. Thank you.
Next is Trish Doran, and she will have 1 minute.
All right. I typed this out. We'll see if I stick to it. Good evening, President Busby, members of the board, and the cabinet. Thank you for hearing me tonight. Tonight I'm speaking as a co-president of the Cave Creek Educational Association, as well as a teacher in our district. I teach at the middle school, and I've taught at 3 of our elementary schools. So I have kind of a unique viewpoint in that I've skipped around a lot of the schools over the years that have been with the district. I also have 3 children that graduated through our district. So I have a lot of lenses to look at our programs. But tonight I speak solely on behalf of the teachers and our calendar. As I was looking at the presentations that you will receive later tonight, I saw that there were many of them, and they were beautiful and well thought out. And I want to first thank the board for listening to us at the last board meeting and asking for additional options to be presented to you tonight. I want to thank Superintendent Dolezal for pulling together a group of people to have those conversations. Yet as I looked at some of them, I do have questions. The first one is the status quo, as he presented last week, and I'm almost out of time. But the others also take away our PLC, which concerns me.
Your time is up. I'm sorry.
So I encourage us to take a look at restructuring time as opposed to innovative calendars.
Next is Shannon Takawaki.
All right. Answers. was moving stuff around.
You have 1 minute.
Yes, thank you. Hello again, President Busby, members of the board, cabinet. Thank you guys so much. I am a teacher at Cactus Shadows. I also taught at the middle school, and I'm a parent to 2 girls at Black Mountain. First, I want to thank you for not immediately voting no to the 4-day week and taking some time to consider different options and come up with different solutions. I do have some concerns about the proposed schedules, and perhaps this will be answered later. The additional days, non-work days with no change to pay in our contract are very appreciated and may address some of the more burnout and mental health issues, but the days are not consistent and do not address the needs of teachers that need to work that second job, like people have mentioned, because they can't afford to just work here. Also, all the dedicated PLC and staff time has been eliminated. How are we going to meet the increasing mandates of designing GVC, working together in our PLCs, and creating all the assessments in School City that is required of us? PLC time is a standard in most districts, and once again, we will have another deficiency when trying to recruit dedicated educators. So, thank you, and quick shout out, thank you so much to the community members that have spoken, because y'all are about to make us cry over here. I really, thank you.
Next is Rebecca Gilligan. She will have 1 minute.
Hello. I want to thank everybody who did the hard work to go in to do these presentations. I know a few, and I know it's hard work. I would like to say that I am a mother of 2 kids at Lone Mountain, and although we don't want to pin schools against each other, Lone Mountain is amazing. We moved up here in 2019 for the opportunity to go to Lone Mountain Elementary. The teachers that we have, I don't know why they stay. They are amazing and so dedicated, and I thank them every day. My kindergartner was terrified and had to be pulled off of me every day, but the music teacher would specially walk her in. When I pull up, everybody smiles. The community is outstanding. When she broke her foot the second week of school, Coach made her his personal assistant. To close a school with such strong teachers is irresponsible. There has to be another way. These teachers are dedicated and they do deserve more. If we need to go to a 4-day work week, let's figure it out as a community. I have one more thing I want to say, and I know I am out of time. The school is amazing. I know we're working hard. I know we have to do, but have you looked at how many of us are going to leave if you close Lone Mountain? Because these teachers aren't going to stay here when they can drive 2 miles to make $15,000 more. Those teachers are not going to stay in this community because they can drive 2 miles to make more money.
Next is Jamie Friedman, and Jamie is allotted 1 minute.
Okay, thank you to the president, the board, and the cabinet. I'm going to talk fast. First of all, just thank you for letting our voices be heard. Academics should be our #1 priority today. And I worry with all the talk of the school closures that we will lose sight of this school calendar and how this affects our academics. A committee of my colleagues spent months, 10 months to be exact, or around that, making a recommendation. And in a short 1.5-hour meeting, we erased all that work. And we erased it without any stakeholders, no principals, no school board members, no CCE members, no committee members from the original committee. I know that because I was there. So then when we went back and talked about it, we erased the PLC time, we erased the planning time. All these things that we had won over years and years of negotiation were gone in a 1.5-hour brainstorming session. So none of these calendars up there support academics. I know because I helped make them and I did a crappy job. So in fact, there was a recommendation by our teachers made for a 4-day work week. We should trust our teachers. That was the recommendation. That's what we should do.
Next is Anna Boone, and she will have 1 minute.
President Busby, members of the board and cabinet, my name is Anna Boone. My husband and I were both raised in the Cave Creek community and personally attended Cave Creek Unified School District schools. we made the conscious decision to raise our 4 children here in the Cave Creek community. All 4 of our children attend Lone Mountain Elementary. Our family has been a part of the Lone Mountain community for 6 years, and I first want to highlight the exceptional teachers our children have had and the loving environment that they have created to allow our children to thrive. Ideally, our community would be offered the opportunity to continue, considering our in-district enrollment and our school's test scores. Our teachers are truly amazing, and I am significantly concerned that we will lose them if this decision goes forward. We have concerns regarding the district's recommendation to close both Lone Mountain and Desert Sun simultaneously, and the challenge that will have for all 5 elementary schools. Thank you.
Next is Brian Gold, and Brian will have 1 minute.
Hi, President Busby and members of the board. Hello, everybody. My name is Brian Gold. I'm the owner of Brilliance LED here in Carefree. I have 2 kids in the Cave Creek School District, Jack here at Black Mountain and Abigail at Cactus Shadows. This may be premature and may have been mentioned already, but I believe that having a vocational option within this district would greatly benefit the students and future of the community. The current EVIT option is certainly better than no option, but the travel time is less than ideal and limits the students' immersion within that program. As a product of a vocational school in Torrington, Connecticut, I understand the importance of providing access to alternative education programs that allow our students to explore their interests and abilities. With the possibilities of vacant properties within this district, I'd like to ask that the board consider establishing a vocational program like EVIT or an EVIT satellite location to expose students to these skills and trades here in their own community in Cave Creek. This program could also attract families to the district. Thank you.
Next is Chris Dixon, and he will have 1 minute.
Starts when I talk, right? All right. Hello, board members and community and teachers. I'm going to read. I normally can. I'm just going to go tonight. I stand before you today, not just as a teacher, but as a football coach, someone who has the privilege of shaping minds in the classroom and on the field. Teaching isn't just a 9-to-5 job. We plan lessons, grade assignments, communicate with parents, and mentor students far beyond the hours we're physically at school. The idea isn't just about benefiting, a 4-day week isn't just about benefiting teachers and coaches. It's about improving students' outcomes as well. The four-day work week can give students more opportunities to recharge, focus on their assignment, and pursue extracurricular activities. For student athletes in particular, the additional day allows for better physical and mental recovery, helping them perform at their best both in the classroom and on the field. A short week could also reduce operational costs for the school, less energy consumption, fewer transportation expenses, and a lighter workload for support staff. These savings could be reinvested into resources that directly benefit students and teachers alike.
Chris, your time is up.
Oh, I'm sorry. Well, I just hope that we can keep everybody, and hopefully that we can keep going as a district. Thank you.
And next is Melanie Shute. I hope I pronounced that right. She will have 1 minute.
Oh, hi.
Hi.
Hi, my name's Melanie Schmidt. I have a daughter in kindergarten at Desert Sun Academy. I chose DSA because of the proximity to the Rio Verde foothills where we live, that students wear uniforms, and the small class size and low teacher-to-student ratio. I'm new to the public school system, and the news received at the meeting last week was a shock. It was noted in the meeting that this is a problem for the district as a whole, and that low student enrollment and insufficient funding, in part due to ESAs and school choice, is what has prompted the recommendation to close 2 elementary schools. It was also noted that other possible solutions in the past were one-time or short-term solutions. In that case, have there been any efforts to retain and recruit more students to the district, which would provide a long-term solution? Otherwise, this trend will continue and the long-term future of the district will be in jeopardy. If state and federal funds, bonds, and overrides are insufficient, have other fundraising options been explored? Does state legislation need to be amended to allow additional financial support for public education since bonds and overrides are not being passed? Lastly, similar to the focus group that was created to research this issue, can a committee or group be formed to find other possible solutions? I request
Melanie,
that the board
your-
delay a decision to
Melanie,
consider these requests, these
your
questions
time is up.
that I have posed. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, everybody, for your comments. We appreciate it. Item 5.1, approval of the 2025-26 calendar presented by Mr. Dolezal.
President Busby, administration recommends the board approve the following: a 3-year of start school dates, school end dates, fall break, winter, spring break dates. It also recommends to approve a 25-26 calendar determined by the governing board.
Is there a motion? Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. Any comments?
Lots of comments.
Okay. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
I'm not sure where to start, so you go ahead right now. I'm gathering a lot of things here together.
So you're throwing it to me now. Just so I'm clear, are we still trying to get a 3-year calendar approved? I'm gonna start at the.
Right now, the motion that's on the floor is 3 years. That's the motion on the floor.
And that 3-year is start dates, end dates, and spring, winter, fall break.
And then does
And then a next year specifically, as determined by the governing board.
Okay, so just so I'm clear, you want to pass the 3-year, but the 1 year is what we're adjusting on based on the presentation that you have here.
That would give time. We've talked about a committee to work on the following 2 years, but at this point we are behind in terms of scheduling. At this point, parents and the community are wanting some dates. Yes. So again, Member Moore, you haven't asked the question, but I'm anticipating the question.
Fair.
We can amend. You can amend that. We can look at what that might look like. Ultimately, if you want to amend the recommendation, we would do that. There would be a vote on that, and then we would vote on whatever the new recommendation would be.
Okay.
Do you have any comments about the calendars?
Lots of comments about the calendars, but I think at the end of the day, hearing the teachers, the community, number one, tabling's not an option. We need to land the plane. My motion would be to approve a 1 year because we have a lot of things we don't know coming our way. So it's a 1 year gives us an ability to learn. Put a committee behind it, 1 year. That would give us till first semester next year to have true data. And unfortunately, the presentation versus the other presentation had a lot more information. I feel like we didn't get enough in that time frame. So there's still lessons to be learned. And I think my thought process would be 1 year calendar, move Wednesday to Friday, and try and find the efficiency in that Friday so that technically speaking there would be that day. Because the 4-day work week with the PLC is still going to impede on that Friday to some extent.
Good.
I'm going to stop there for now.
Okay. This really has been an interesting experience, to say the least. I was intrigued by the 4-day week, and I have spent a lot of time since that initial meeting talking to a lot of the teachers, hearing their voice. I know it's not all the teachers. I was hoping to get even more, but I got enough to kind of really see what was going on and how they were feeling, and I cannot get past the idea that to accept the original recommendation is to do nothing for the teachers right now. In a time when we can't give them a raise, they're asking for time. This doesn't give them any more time than they have right now. And then we got these, and I was like, wait, no, because this is taking, I don't see that much more getting given. A few days here and there, which are like all over the place, and it just kind of made me wonder how these calendars would even look, because like, Veterans Day is on a Tuesday, so you get the Monday off. Well, that makes sense. That's kind of nice. But what if it's moved then to Wednesday? What do you get the Monday and Tuesday off, or the Thursday and Friday, or nothing? So many things like that, and then just all these random days off, and then no PLC. I'm a teacher. Sometimes PLC is an amazingly good thing. Sometimes it feels like a dirty word, but you always need it because you have to have that time collaborating with your colleagues, and to just get rid of it doesn't seem to make any sense. And I feel like if we just go ahead and do this original recommendation, we're doing nothing, and I can't do nothing. So I would not agree to that recommendation, but I still am really want to look at that four-day week. I think it's a good thing for the teachers. I think they can do some really good things with it. And through my talks with Dr. Jensen, we got some really good comments about how it would look. I think maybe going forward we could get some more and detailed. If it doesn't pass today, I don't know what the chances of a 4-day week passing this are today, but I do think that its time has come. And I do think that with what else is going on here, with Desert Arroyo, okay, it's been a long week. It's been a long time. With Desert Sun and Lone Mountain looking at being closed, consolidating these elementary schools, how that will affect our district, how that will affect teacher jobs, now could be the perfect time to start looking at something really innovative and outside of the box. So I'm going to keep pushing for that. That could be the first applause thing I've ever gotten in my life. So I'm just going to relish that for a second. That being said, I would really like to see this thought process that started 10 months ago, really delved into further. Will it happen this year? Probably not. And maybe what Member Moore said about this 1 year could at least be a pause gap, with the intention that you guys know what you need. And we're in this situation because of a lot of things that we can control and some things that we can't. We cannot control the price of houses here in Cave Creek School District. They're really high. Families aren't moving in. We can't control the fact that families are having less kids. We cannot control that the enrollment is declining, not just here, but everywhere. We cannot control directly the impact that ESAs are having on schools here. The public schools are being drastically hit by these things. We have 1,000 students that could be coming here that are not. And that's significant. And it's not going to get any different. So, but there are things that we can control. And I didn't want to go here, but this is where I just go. Sometimes you have to understand that, political things get in the way. And if we are voting for people that are addressing public education the way they are, that we're kind of responsible for this. So I hope that we can continue looking at that. But what I really like, and this kind of goes to the school closure thing too. I'm sorry, I'm talking too long. Is this community involvement. This is huge. I woke up this morning, I had 9 new emails from after when I went to bed last night. 9. And they were all very passionate, and I understand every single one of them. We need this commitment from this community going forward, because we will have to do something. We have to try something, and being able to do that together, and I know it's hard to do it together because you want to go, not my school, some other school, but we have to do this as a community. We have to get together, and we have to have this resolve if we want to move forward. So I probably went a little bit off this subject, a little bit, but my recommendation is to still look at this 4-day week, and that's all I have to say right this minute.
Applause twice. Go ahead.
I understand the need to get dates on the calendar, especially for working parents whose PTO's already needing to be in. They're trying to figure out vacation days. I think after we left our last meeting, we came to the agreement of trying to find some sort of compromise, whether that be a 4-day versus that 1-to-1 schedule. And I think these options kind of don't put those things together. Because again, I mean, I voted to help get teachers that PLC time a few years ago. And so I don't think eliminating that is the answer to give them more time either. I don't even know where else to go from here, since these really meet that compromise, whether it's a 1-to-1 with some of these extra days off. I know we do have some options here and how that affects seniors or not, again with the 4-day, how that affects seniors. But I don't think eliminating PLCs and then giving extra days off is the answer either.
Yeah, I feel like, I like what Member Moore said. I feel much more in favor of voting for a 1-year plan and really consolidating what we're going to do with that 1 year. We have so many moving parts. We're looking at school closures and all of this at once, and it just seems like we're potentially heading down a disaster road if we try to enact too much change at one time with too many different moving parts for too many families, too many individuals. I would love to see us move forward. I'm interested in exploring the 4-day calendar. As I stated the last time, I personally would be in favor of that. I just am not sure that this next year is the right year for it, because I feel like there's still some missing pieces. And I know that that's not the most exciting thing that some of you want to hear. And it's not to try to dampen that. It's just to say, we're looking for out-of-the-box solutions. We do hear you. We want to be supportive. We want to do all that. At the same time, we're hearing from a lot of parents and community members who are saying, this will not work for me. This will not work for us. We need solutions. And I feel like if we could take this next year and really evaluate everything and come with more data, more concise numbers and figures, factoring in potentially closing 2 schools on top of that, what is that going to look like? I feel like it would set our district up better to be proactive instead of making decisions and then going, oh my gosh, what have we done? So I don't know that that's a solution, but those are my thoughts right now with everything coming in. And again, loads of emails, which I so appreciate, but it's a lot to go through and try to gather the pieces and the data and who fits into this box and who's asking for what.
Okay. Go ahead if you have something else.
I did want to just kind of add, when we've been banding things about and asking a lot of questions behind the scenes to get to this point, it was mentioned that maybe some of these PLCs could be designated as those hands-off staff so that they can do whatever they need to do professionally on those days, and then the other days are the actual PLC days. I don't know how the teachers feel about that, but that was kind of intriguing because that could be 17 90-minute time blocks that could be given to them. Wouldn't be time off, but it could be at least time where they're not in PLCs, but they're doing what they need to do. So that might be would that be incorporated into this calendar that we're doing, if the original recommendation?
There would need to be a motion to amend the original recommendation that would have something like that along those lines in terms of if those days off. I would say the option, you said that there was one where it could be, the 90 minutes, it was hands off in that.
Right.
I would say that ultimately another option, especially when you're talking about gift of public funds and those types of things, would be you would just build in the equivalency to a contract to include that time off for both certified and classified staff. So I think you've got two options there, if that's what you're talking about. You could talk about 90 minutes, to where the schools and district have still time for training, teachers have that PLC time, those things like that, and then the other days are hands off, and then you would have the options of doing hands off and they just get that time, or if you were looking at, and again, respectfully, the other options were based on the teachers had voiced that if money was not a commodity, then time was.
Right.
So those other options weighed how many minutes our seniors need, because they're really the close ones.
Right.
How many of those seniors needs, and we're currently in the model that we have now, whether that 90 minutes is on Wednesday, Friday, Thursday, Monday, it does not matter what day that 90-minute early release is, that we're up against a 720-hour state mandate, and currently we're at 722 hours. So
I'd almost like to, I know we can't, discuss things with the teachers and all that, the audience, but I would like to know what that would, how they would feel about that. But I think that at least giving them that time to do what they need to do professionally might be at least better than mandating what those PLCs look like. And I know that the PLCs are used different ways in different schools, but that was just an intriguing thing to me. So I don't know if that would be something that they'd be interested in, but just wanted to kind of throw that out there.
Okay. I have a couple of questions, Mr. Dolezal, that you might be able to answer. If we did a 4-day week, don't we have, aren't we required to have training for like state testing? And
well,
so
regardless of what calendar we have, there's required training, yes,
so
no matter what.
Right now, I assume some of that takes place like during the PLC time, some of that training.
Yes, President Busby. Right now we use a lot of our PLC time for required trainings, such as ALICE, such as state testing, behavior training, all sorts of things, as well as teacher collaboration time. We try to keep our hands off and make it mostly teacher collaboration, but I know sometimes other things creep in. With that 4-day option, the idea was that one Friday a month would be dedicated to training. So the PLC time would be put on one Friday a month.
So it would be one week a month would be 5 days for the teachers, and
that was the discussion in the focus group. That was what they were leaning towards.
Okay,
I mean,
so
there were a lot of things discussed, but that was the final one that they had leaned towards.
For all of the training that would need to be throughout the school year, is 1 week, 1 day a month sufficient to cover that?
I mean, I'm in charge of professional development. Nothing's sufficient, but
just asking,
yes, we could, because that would be the equivalent of 4 Wednesdays.
Okay. Like a lot of everybody in here, you can research stuff and you can find pros and cons for whatever it is you're looking for. And before I say anything else, I appreciate everybody's comments. And how everybody's weighed in on everything. We have a lot of very emotional things sitting in front of us, and it's not easy because I sit here and there's a face and a name connected to every single vote, and that kind of stinks because I take it very personal. But aside from that, a concern that I have, well, I'm very concerned about our teachers. In addition to that, the other half of that equation is our students. And there are lots of things that you can read, you know, a day off is good for their mental health, so on and so forth. But what about the achievement? I've read more lengthy studies that have brought into question if a 4-day is really a good thing for the achievement of students. There's a 16-year study that the University of California did, and it was the authors of the study were actually shocked at what came out of the study. They found from the study one that it actually wasn't a positive for teacher retention, which the way they wrote the report, they were shocked by that. And they also found that there was a decline in achievement. Other studies have said that it's kind of a flat line, depends on what the demographics are, and other studies will say what's affected most is reading. And so for our young students is, you know, that's a concern. In addition to the teachers, how are we going to balance what our teachers need, but also what our students need? Because teachers don't have a classroom if we don't have students, and students don't have a classroom if we don't have teachers. So there's a lot of pieces here. Where is that sweet spot where there's a happy medium between where we're not harming our students and we're helping our teachers?
Okay.
So that's the question that I'm throwing out to everybody here. Where is that?
Well, I mean, I think it's based in compromise, and I know a lot of people don't like that word, but it is because we're going in uncharted waters. We have innovation being presented to us, which is great. That's how you get to the right steps is change and challenge. But the reality to it is that you also, you know, just like we've heard from a lot of people tonight, is, you know, heed caution in making these decisions. Think about what you're doing, and I would say that same goes around this calendar. We have to think about what we're doing. In regards to, let's give a path to a 4-day, meaning there's a compromise in the middle that gets us where to. You know, again, much smarter educators in this room. I'm just a business guy for what it is. And in business, we always want to pretend we are very efficient and we're doing everything right. But then when you start to kind of get your hands in the soil, you realize you're not that efficient. And I'm willing to wager that somewhere in time we have inefficiencies. In business, we use meetings on meetings about the meetings. Yes, got some attention. So I think that, and again, this is tricky, and I think the reality is that we can go around in circles, but I think we have to land the plane. My recommendation, based on the data, based on talking to teachers, parents, students, I think the first step in progress, like I said, is let's move Wednesday to Friday. Let's make it a 1-year calendar. Let's get a very diverse committee. A parent is a parent. A parent can't be a parent and a teacher, because teachers, I love you that are parents, but the schedule is your schedule on both sides of the fence. So we need to have a very robust committee. We also need to think about people that are in facilities or transportation to have a weigh in on these types of things as well. We haven't heard a lot of those voices. So I think a 1-year, moving that, pushing admin to work with the teachers to find efficiencies in that time to give them more time, I think is a very fair and reasonable request. And then the goal is to work towards that 4-day. If you move it to Friday, you're halfway there. I would disagree. Because you're halfway there because you're getting buy-in from the parents. You're moving the calendar to get them acclimated to what a half-day Friday is to then what a full day might be downstream. Number two is somebody already said, well, what about attendance? If you go to Friday, people are going to take that whole day off. Well, that's why we have attendance policies. And if we enforce them, we check that box as well. There's steps to the equation. I could be all fish out of water here, but something is better than nothing. And at the going rate, we're going to end up right back to where we are.
In doing that, do you want to still have the PLCs though on Friday? Because I believe those days keep staff though here longer on those early release days.
This is the part where we get to hand it back to administration to work those details out. I'm not an educator, but I guarantee you if we charge both sides with the challenge of solving it, maybe they'll come up with a compromise that actually gives everybody a win-win.
Because right now on the early release days, it's 90 minutes for parents, but I believe staff stays longer than just an extra 90 minutes. Correct?
Efficiently?
Yes, Vice President Walker, that's a good question. I will say many staff stay probably 3 hours longer. I frequently am walking the schools at 4:30 and 5 and still find them. Sometimes there are staff that, use that as their I'm out at 4 o'clock if you're elementary or whatever, where they actually leave at their contract time, whatever that means. So yes, they usually do stay beyond the 90 minutes because by the time we dismiss students, we would love to start a PLC at 2 o'clock for an elementary campus, but that's not reasonable because it takes minimum of 15 minutes to get 400 students out of the building and safely into their cars. And then if they're meeting with teachers from other campuses, then they have to commute to that other place, which would be 2:30 is what we've said we're going to start at. And honestly, by the time you get from Horseshoe Trails up to Black Mountain, it's usually 2:40 on those days. Now, on the days when they just stay on their campus, then yes, they're starting by 2:30 after they've dismissed their kids, used the restroom, and then they're into their meeting, and then they go till 4 o'clock is the expectation right now. As I said many times, I know specifically at Black Mountain, I walked through there, it was probably 5:15, and I saw a whole group of teachers still working in their space, talking about students and achievement.
Now,
So in all fairness, though, teachers stay after on a regular day too, don't they? Because we have amazing teachers. So does the clock ever really end?
Now, if we, kind of going off what you did, if you move that, maybe not a true early release, but a half day Friday and PLCs or maybe every other first and third of the month, how's that minutes would that affect? Because a true half day is much less than that early release. Does that make sense?
We could make it work as you all direct. I do like Member Moore's idea of letting us take care of that part and just saying it's going to be a half day early release. And if you want to direct us that one Friday a month, our hands are off, or 2 Fridays a month, I mean, we will take direction, or we can try to strike a happy medium between the required trainings, the work that needs to be done so that we make sure our students are making appropriate progress, and the culture and climate of the campuses.
I'm sorry, I think I was actually talking about that 720 hour for seniors, how that would affect it, because that's at the early release schedule versus like a true half day happening once a week instead of early release.
Okay, so you're
Right?
recommending
We'd
that
still be
Correct.
short. We'd be short minutes.
Correct. I mean, literally now, if we have an early release, whatever way we use that early release, we're at 722 hours, and we have to stay at 720. So there's 2 hours of wiggle room left in that particular calendar in terms of staying above it. And I will even say 722 is pretty darn close. That's cutting it close. So yes, if you go from a 90 minute down to a true half day, I would think that you might be able to squeeze 2 days out of that. But I don't know how much more it would be than that without having Vicky and IT go through and play with those numbers and what would that need and where would we be. Just looking at the difference between, a finals half day when it's a half day versus a 90-minute early release, there's not there's not a whole lot of buffer room built in there.
Well, the idea of moving it to Friday, I mean, it does have some good points to it because it's Friday, but the fact is that, and this happens at my school, it's happened at every school I've worked for, the Friday's attendance just goes down, and you put it to a half day or an early release, nobody's going to show up. And yes, you do it, do the absentee rules, and you follow that up, but they're still not going to be there, and so that's going to be a problem. I think that at the very least, if we could just at least have that where it still is, the PLCs on Wednesday with those alternating times off, hands off, not times off. However that would want to look. If you want to look at that as time off, I don't know how that would work, but at least do what you need to do time. I mean, for my case, that's writing IEPs and doing a lot of paperwork. For these guys, it's all that lesson planning and grading and whatever else. Being able to do that without those commitments would be at least better. We're not getting them that time, and like I said, we're not, the current calendar doesn't do that, but at least it seems like the talk is at least getting into a direction that I'm kind of getting a little bit more pleased with, that we're at least looking at that as an option going forward. So more data, more really specifics. What would be really cool is somewhere down the line, we have a calendar for the 4-day that just shows us exactly what everything looks like. Every single day for the week, for the entire year. So that's something that we got to shoot for sure. But I think that we probably want to stay away from moving the PLC day to Friday, because it's still going to put a lot of burden on the teachers on those Friday afternoons. They're not going to get the extra day off probably. So
a question about a 4-day with the 720 minutes for the seniors. Am I right to understand then seniors would be their early release as it is right now? They get out after 4th period. That would go away.
President Busby, those seniors that are only who are able to take 4 periods, we do have seniors that take 5 and 6 classes as well. But the seniors that are on the shortened day, it's after 4th period.
It would be? Well,
Currently, right now, on a 4-day week.
The 4-day week calendar denoted that seniors needed to be there for 5 periods a day.
Okay.
With the understanding that those who are working could work on Fridays. That was the discussion of the focus group. So.
Any other comments? Well, there was a suggestion to amend the motion to approve a 1-year calendar, but I need some clarification here on approving a 1-year calendar, but exactly
Which one?
which one are we talking about here? Mr. Moore?
Well, and Member Moore and Governing Board, before you proceed, yes. So we would need to get to the 25-26 school year calendar, and then the format in terms of days of the week. And if you're looking at telling us again if it's that PLC time, is that Wednesday, Friday? Is that 2 of those a month are split between the school, and whether there's 1, 2, or 3 additional Wednesdays or Fridays, whatever it is that you are talking about, which ones of those are then hands off?
We'd have to.
And I'm assuming that then that there is still a week fall break, winter break, spring break, and all of that as well. So I just like clarification on all of that.
So we're talking.
Well, wait a second. Dr. Jensen, you had made the comment about, leaving the nitty-gritty to the calendar to administration.
That was the
No,
previous
President
presentation.
Busby, yeah, I just mean what we're going to do on our Fridays.
Okay,
If we're going to go to Fridays, if you can just leave that part up to us, and unless you guys are really insistent on wanting to do it, but we do have IBN beginning on Thursday, and that might be a good topic of how many of those, what do we do during those 90-minute times? So
Whether
that would
it's
be something we
Friday,
could negotiate.
Tuesday, or Wednesday, or whatever.
Or Wednesday,
Okay.
yes, whatever
Okay. All right.
or the full days off that we have, whatever.
Whatever. Okay.
I do remember when we were getting the 90-day or 90-minute, comparing to Deer Valley, a much larger district than ours, has had the Friday early release. And I know some days they go full day Friday if there's a half day or a day off during that same week to meet minutes. And I would think they would have the same things with seniors doing early release. Maybe Dr. Plotnick could give a little information on that since you were previously there as far as how their Fridays worked versus in the middle of the week. And as far as, I hear you about people not showing up or, but a district much, much larger than ours, if they've been doing it longer than us, seems like something's working.
Yes, Member Walker. As far as Deer Valley, if there was a day off, such as say a Monday for a holiday, then that Friday is not a early release day. So that is how they adjusted the calendar. Now this year, with my children being in that system,
Okay.
there are a couple odd weeks where they've had a Friday, but for the most part, it is. If you look at their calendar, it's a day off. The Friday is just a full day. For them.
And is their theirs is a true half day, not just early release on their Fridays?
No, it's early release.
It's early release. Okay.
Okay. So, back to my original question. You've made a suggestion that we amend the motion to approve a one-year calendar. Which one, and how does it look?
That's a great question.
The $1 million.
What I was proposing is not even on the option table that we were presented. Again, the goal is to get to a 4-day. That's where teachers are trying to go. Did I miss the boat on that one?
Member Moore, I think.
Follow me.
What you're saying.
Come on.
Is for this year.
Yes.
For 2025.
Right, for the 25-26 upcoming school year.
Yes.
We continue with the original recommendation.
Uh-huh.
However, the 1-2-1, 5-day.
Mm-hmm.
But you wanted to move the PLC to Friday.
Correct. And I want the teachers to work with admin and figure out how to draw efficiency at that. Because here's the thing. Let me walk you through my thought process on this. If you listen to the community, you listen to the parents, you listen to the teachers. Teachers, you want the 4-day. Hear you loud and clear. Totally understand the reasons why. And there's a path, I believe, that we can get there. And I know some people are going to trash me online that I said that. But it's okay. I'll deal with it later. The reality to it is anytime you're trying to do something of mass change, which we still have another topic to hit, you have to have a bridge to get there, to fully acclimate and really find what you're trying to accomplish. So again, the compromise is if we move Wednesday to Friday and we give admin control of that, which originally Mr. Dolezal's plan was give us the 3-year, I'm going to do a committee, but I'm going to change some things along the way. Because in that 3-year span based on learning, I'm just saying, okay, I hear you. How about a 1-year? We move to Friday, so it gives parents, students, and everybody the acclimation to a half-day Friday, or you tell me what we can and can't do legally, because, yeah, it's not my area of expertise, but I believe there's a way here. And if we do that, and then we have a true committee, and that committee's responsibility, and this is the caveat, the committee starts day 1, which would mean as soon as you want to build that focus group, Superintendent Dolezal, it needs to be very diverse, and then it would report out on a cadence bi-monthly or something to the board. in front of all of us. What are we learning? What are we seeing? How's attendance? What are those things that we're learning? How's teachers? What's the feedback? We've got to, we're doing all these committees, and then we as a board get it just last week. We're closing schools. Great. Now what? So I think if we do this 1 year, it sets us up for a stronger future step in going and saying, hey, this does make sense. Parents and students get used to the half day, then you might have a better opportunity at truly looking at a 4-day. And if we have that much time on the runway, we can actually present better data and a better component as to either A, really a 4-day is what works, or hey, maybe somebody comes up with something really crazy we didn't think about, because we have so much more rich data to actually make an informed decision.
Okay,
That's
so
why
you're
I'm presenting this.
suggesting the Friday be a half day.
With the early release.
The early release.
Release.
However, I'm going to let you guys wordsmith it. Don't hold me to
so
finessing
I'm
it.
clarifying. It's
Yes.
the early release. Just take Wednesday and
Correct.
put it into Friday.
Move Wednesday to Friday, have them work out the details and figure out how to give the teachers more time. Challenge on both ends of the spectrum.
And member Moore, question for you is that I know Dr. Jensen had mentioned the IBN process is starting, where that is often an appropriate time where negotiations like that take place between teachers, well, certified, classified, and all of that. So I do not know if that is the arena that could be accomplished. So just wanted to put that out there, that body exists for that exact purpose every year.
And then my question to you, Superintendent Dolezal, does anything that I'm saying make sense?
Yes, Mr. Moore. Member Moore, you are making sense from what I've written down. It appears that you or someone needs to amend the motion to approve a 2025-2026 calendar in the 1-2-1 format with PLC meetings on Friday, with the dates required to work. And that's the wordsmithing part I'm going to need your help with, but with dates to be determined as part of the IBN process.
Sure.
Okay. All right.
So, I mean, there's got to be flexibility in this. We can't nail it all down because we don't have all the answers to your. But I think if we give you enough runway.
I think by time we get back to that, then my only concern is staff is staying even later on Fridays if their PLCs are at those days, not students. It's getting parents used to that. That's my only concern.
Dr. Jensen,
yep, there's the
didn't
question.
you make a comment that the 2 PLCs a month could be required, and then the rest of the time is not required? So if it was early release, it's early release, and then those other Fridays or Wednesdays would be teacher time.
Yeah, we have that on the menu, right? The first.
But also,
or
too,
third.
didn't you say that if we went to a 4-day school week,
Yeah.
technically speaking, 1 day would be a Friday, correct? Okay. So how do we get creative?
What? I'm sorry. I'm not sure what the question
Member
is.
Moore, I guess, respectfully, I was with you before. I think I kind of lost you at that last.
So to say if we go to a 4-day work week, no, follow. If we're going to a 4-day work week, let's just say we do that. And you're saying that the total PLC time would require 1 day, right?
Because that would be a full Friday, so
Correct.
the equivalent of 490 minutes would be wrapped up in that 1 day.
Correct. So is there a way, I mean, that's what I'm trying to understand is, I'm really dumping it on you guys to solve this problem, but I guess we have to solve it. What other wiggle room exists by doing this to give a little bit of an edge to the teachers is what I'm trying. I'm trying to put pressure on you guys to solve their problem and give them more time. Because, again, there's still some pieces that we need to define with the 4-day. It would be easy listen, I am all for the 4-day. Doesn't impact my family, works great, or vacations. Sounds great. Unfortunately, I don't get to make the decision on my feelings and thoughts. I have to listen to everybody and take everything into consideration, which is fun and challenging all the same. So I guess let me ask it a different way. If I make it your problem, how can you make it better?
So you're saying if you make 4 90-minute early releases on Fridays,
Sure.
My problem, absolutely, we can work within that, and we can do. We'll find a way to make it work during IBN with teachers so that we can still provide the time. So from the administration side, we don't have any issue with it.
Well, can you give them more free time?
I can give probably 2 Fridays per month. To go much more than that, I mean, I could give them all 4 Fridays per month. It's just that at some point we have to hold the required training. So then I'm going to go to a Tuesday morning or a Tuesday afternoon or something like that. If you want me to give them all Fridays, I'm happy to do that. Then we need to find another time to hold those required trainings. Does that make sense?
No,
which we can be creative and talk about that during IBN.
And member Moore, governing board, I think I would be remiss without saying things like as we talk to our counterparts in other districts, other areas, Friday PLCs are not as effective as Wednesday PLCs. It's the end of the week. People are burned out. You don't get the same. You don't. It's even hard. It's hard for our teachers to do it on Wednesdays. You put it on Fridays, and in terms of their productivity, their ability, and all of that. Again, this is feedback. I believe, Dr. Jensen, when you go to meetings, most other districts that are on Fridays wish they were on Wednesdays, wish they were on a different day. So again, I would be remiss without stating that, as Dr. Jensen said, whatever the decisions are, we will bust our tail to make sure that we are doing the best we can to serve our students, because that's why we're here. Ultimately, the decisions we make are in the interest of our students, and part of that is, yes, as I stated before, having great teachers is absolutely part of that. So we can do that. Again, looking at things like, is the 90-minute just hands off and they're there, or do you want to direct us to look at those 90 minutes as actually time off, which is, again, what I believe teachers have said is time is a different commodity. So whether that is just, it is time off, so whether that's Dr. Jensen, their group works with the first and third Wednesdays, or again, this can be negotiated through IBN. Those days are happening, and then the other ones are off. And we would look at what's the equivalent time, and then both certified and classified would literally be off. So that would be adding paid time off. So we can do it, and with your control of the budget, you can direct us to do it either way. Again, honoring the teacher where some of those different ideas came from, time is a commodity versus money. And again, I recognize from the focus group that mentioned, we don't know what other groups are doing. There are other groups, there are other decisions to be made with the intent of trying to help out the salaries as well. So with that, again, what I hear is a 25-26 school year calendar, the 1-2-1 format, and then again, a decision from the board on removing Wednesdays to Fridays. And then are we looking at paid time off where or hands off? And what are those, or is that negotiated in IBN at that point in time?
Okay, Member Moore, this was your baby. Okay,
Playing
so
Hangman now?
I've got the 1 year down. Now, as far as the PLC, whether it's Wednesday or Friday, where are you going with that?
Just trying to land the plane on like what I said in the whole thing. Now, if you guys got other options or better ideas, I'm all ears.
We need to amend a motion. We need to have some
a motion.
direction.
Well, first we got to make sure we have a motion to amend. The goal is to ultimately get at least in a situation to where we can truly A, approach the 4-day, B, get people a little bit more acclimated with looking at a Friday, because that's how you get the buy-in. Now, we could look at it other different ways. Like, again, there's paid days off, which is what's been presented, and that gives teachers what they want. Is that a short-term fix, or is it a long-term fix?
Well, right now, if we're just doing it 1 year, everything is a short-term fix.
I know.
And
Does it set us up for what's going to come in 1 year when we get the data and we look at everything and we make decisions?
yeah, we get to go through this again in a year. That'd be something to look forward
excited?
to.
We'll be really practiced.
Yeah, we'll be really good at this. I think, and don't let me, sorry, put words in your mouth or anything, but I guess I wasn't really aware that some of those days could actually be just time off for them. And I think that would at least be some time off, rather than these random days that are in some of these other calendars. I guess what we can agree on is, at least right this minute, much to my chagrin, the 4-day is not going to cut it right now. So the teachers aren't going to be able to get that based on where the board is leaning and how the vote would have been last week if we had done it. So I kind of think that we have to have that understanding going forward. Then the fact that we're talking about moving in that direction is huge. We probably want to move pretty quick so that we are the innovative thing, and not just pretty soon everybody's going to want to do it. But if we can have those times where the teachers actually get those early release as time off, at least they get some time.
And Member Fortney, I would just like to clarify again, if we're doing something for our certified group, that I would want to do it for the classified group as well.
For sure.
It's understood.
Yeah. Yeah. So being able to have them get their time off while still getting their PLC when they need that and the training when they need that, do the teachers have a big thing about Wednesday or Friday?
Maybe Monday. I know I'm on meetings all days on Mondays. If that was a early release day.
Okay. So looking at this calendar, if we had 2 early release days that were actual PLC days.
Yeah, like this menu of options that we have going, like a first and third of whichever this early release day is PLC.
But
and the
then
rest
there's, take August or October, for instance, there's 5 weeks, or there'd be 5 Fridays, for instance. So then there would be 3 of those days that it's just free, hands-off time.
And President Busby, can I also please make a point of, and looking at Deer Valley's calendar, like Member Walker stated, if you look at their first semester, it goes 4 Fridays, 3 Fridays, 3 Fridays, 2, and then 2. And then second semester starting in January is 3 Fridays in that month, 3 in February, 3 in March, none in April because of testing, and then 2 in May. So they actually next year have 25 Fridays that they're going to. So it's not as easy as going first and third Fridays because you don't always have a first and third Friday. Plus, if you're considering, if Monday's off, that you're not going to do the half day on a Friday, then that also throws a wrench in it. So you really have to look at the calendar at that, because then it's also going to impact instructional minutes as well.
Right.
So if we kept it on Wednesday and had them have those times, those first and third, as times hands off, or the IBN time, would that be then more workable?
Well, that would maintain our current hours at where we sit right now. Because if the 90 minutes are there, that's, again, we're at 722 hours now. So again, if it's a 90-minute, early release and all of that, whether we're doing the PLC at work or whether that's your hands off, your compensated time, again, we can do either of those, and that would be consistent, and that would be within the realm of the minimum time standards that we need to meet for our seniors, so they continue the option of having a 4-period day.
What is the calendar's days for students? We'll put seniors to the side versus staff contract. Maybe that's what. Because we have options. This is with no PLCs, but there's 8 additional paid days off, 4 additional paid days off, or 6 additional paid days off. and the breaks kind of change a little bit. So I guess I got to go to the total
So
amounts of days to
I
kind of.
think those are, we go from 180 days to either 178 days or 176.
So, board members, right now, current teacher contracts are 186 days. That's 180 school days and then 6 professional development days. 5 of those are right now currently through the IBN process. We're moved to the beginning of the year. And then, again, taking some lessons from other districts in that, historically, there's been a day at the end of the year. We know that most of the time the teachers can be wrapped up and done. Perhaps that would go along your efficiencies member more. So really some other districts, we've heard good feedback in terms of when you come back from a vacation, allowing teachers to come back. I know when I was a teacher, I know looking at my wife who is still currently teaching, she spends a lot of time over vacation working instead of actually vacationing. So providing that day right now, that 6th day after a break, would allow some of that to where they didn't necessarily have to do it. So that's a long answer to your question. 180 days, 186 contract day, 180 days are students. If we remove that 90-minute and all of those days are full days, that buys us the ability to get 720 minutes or 720 hours, and the maximum paid days off you could offer would be 8 at that point in time, and still be over that amount of time. That was the exercise that the groups did. So there was a 4, 1 1/4 adding 1, and there was a 6, and there was an 8 because that was the maximum where we could still maintain our instructional minutes necessary. For seniors, again, without requiring them to go to a 5th period.
I know we have written in for all of, at least at minimum, for students to do school at home. I don't know if there's any way of getting that to figure out for just the seniors group, if there's a way of keeping the 1-2-1 with PLCs and still giving an additional PTO days mixed in throughout the calendar. I don't know.
Yeah, Vice President Walker, that would be an option. I would recommend it might be something we discussed during IBN if we did decide to do the instructional time model with seniors, because it will be a workload on teachers because they do still need to provide assignments for the students at home. And so I do think it's a good option that we could have some flexibility there. If we at least got something with start dates, end dates, and then like what the general rhythm is going to be. And then if the board wanted IBN to work out perhaps a couple other paid days off, or we kept our hands off of the 90-minute early releases and then worked in flipped days for PD, where teachers would report for PD. So maybe they'd get the 90 minutes off, but then they'd report for PD on these flipped days. Those are options. But I recommend that we maybe get some sort of a start, end, and then the general rhythm, and then that group could be another group to come up with something funny to do on the middle.
And Member Walker, to be clear though, I think those are 2 different things. You're talking PTO, paid time off. So if you're maintaining that 90-minute early release and that calendar, and you're looking for paid time off, I believe you commented, well, could we do something different for the seniors, where the seniors really, basically you would be asking teachers who instructed seniors to come up with an activity for the seniors to do. So it's not really, to me, it's not an equivalent apples to apples. Then you're having senior teachers have to do work when everybody else is necessarily getting total paid time off. They're responsible for doing some of that. Just a caution.
Yeah.
And to Dr. Jensen's point, I don't know that it's not a bridge uncrossable, but the first, I have a hard time recommending something that's going to give more to certain teachers than others, and a difference.
Do we know how many of our seniors take advantage of early release? I know anybody in EVIT cannot, IB, any other extras. Do we know, like percentage-wise or out of?
Principal Barella, will you come to the mic, please?
Sorry.
Thanks for coming.
I would say we have, right now we have 3 classes that we offer to all seniors, like general education classes, 5th hour, but they're super light on the load, maybe 15 to 20 kids in those classes. And then we have a sprinkling of like our AP and IB kids who are taking those singletons that are during that day that are their 6th hour. So it might be 75 kids that are there after lunch, 75 seniors who take advantage of it.
Majority of the
That
class.
take advantage of staying or early release.
Stay.
Stay.
The rest.
That's a big percentage of the seniors
The rest
that do early release.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Out of,
hang on
what do we have? 389 kids, I think.
It's probably, right, about 17, 18%.
Correct.
Yeah.
Stay. So it's
Small.
Okay, we're back to the back to you, Dan. How would you like to clarify and amend the motion?
Well, as we keep getting more information, which is interesting in and of itself, yeah. At this point, I mean, we've got to make a decision. Plus, we still have another topic that I think needs attention.
Well,
Start and end dates and breaks are all based on quarters, correct? Like fall break and spring break, we got those all to line up no matter which calendar. we
yes,
have
Vice
there.
President Walker.
Okay.
So let me just go back to Superintendent Dolezal, Dr. Jensen. So if we give you the framework, the rest you can pencil in, is what you're saying, if I'm reading between the lines.
Member Moore, if we're forcing you to read between the lines, I apologize. That is not the intent. Ultimately, if you are amending the motion for a 2025-26 calendar with the 1-2-1 vacation format and PLC meetings, what we need direction from is what day of the week, and then other than that, we are prepared to negotiate with IBN in terms of those days being. How many days a month are hands off? And again, we would like direction in terms of, are we talking hands off, or are we talking, where they are professionals, they determine what they need and what they do, or are we talking paid time off? That's the clarity that we're looking for, and guidance, since those are budgetary issues from you guys.
All of those, yes. Yeah. Perfect world. My thing on that is moving to Friday. I mean, if the goal is ultimately to try and really vet out if a 4 day is pliable, it's to set the behavior tone to get there.
Okay.
Which is why I'm saying.
So we amended to a 1-2-1 calendar with the early release on Friday.
Correct.
Now,
And then tasked to go to the IBN,
but
find out.
Are we asking the administration to keep the PLCs every Friday? Are we asking them to just have it once a month, twice a month? And then if one of those is the option, are you saying that the rest of the Fridays are left up to teacher time? Is it paid time off? So we need to give some direction. So
Correct.
What is your thought? But what is your thought? Because we need to amend a motion.
Right. The thought is do we have enough information to figure out what all we can leverage in that scenario, which is what I was saying, reading between the lines of having options. I think the framework is there. What Friday looks like, that's the question I really... I mean, the statement I probably don't really have the full answer to, because this isn't my job.
Well, what
right?
it sounds what it sounds like you're saying is, for this 1 year,
correct,
that we do the original 1-2-1 and move the PLCs to Friday,
and try and find the teachers whatever we can give them.
But then we would, at least it would be, if I'm having my choice between, hands off, but doing their work and actually getting a few hours off, I would definitely try and go with that.
Correct.
With the time off?
Yeah.
And then, and that would be, a couple of Fridays a month that they would have that. And at least it gets them something for this first year.
Correct.
Then we work towards what we're talking about here.
Okay, so we could amend the motion for the 2025-26 calendar, or amend the motion, so we would only be voting on a calendar for the 2025-26 school year. It would be the 1-2-1, move the PLC to Friday, and then we charge administration to being efficient with the delivery of the PLC and maximizing the free time.
Free time for the teachers, yes.
Okay. All right. Is there a motion for that?
Motion.
Well, we need, right,
Oh,
we
hold
need,
on.
the motion is to amend the motion.
Yes. Is there a motion to amend it to that?
Yes.
Is there a second?
So we need to follow, correct. So there's a motion to amend the motion, and then you need to go on what is the new motion that you're
Exactly.
recommending, then a second, then a vote there, then we vote
So I
on that
move we
motion.
amend the motion.
Okay. Is there a second?
So moved.
Okay.
Okay, again, we haven't, I move to amend the motion to, and then we need the motion read, and then we need a second on that.
Okay. One more time. So Jackie, you start.
I move that we amend the motion to
A one-year calendar.
a one-year calendar, 2025-26, the 1-to-1, moving the PLC to Friday, and tasking the administration with the parameters
Of maximizing.
of maximizing the efficiencies and time off,
Yes.
and yes.
Okay. Is that about as clear as mud? Okay. All right. So
Is part of that to take place during the IBN process?
during the IBM.
During the IBN process, upcoming.
And then, can I add something to that, in that
We
the
need
board
to do it like this.
would like a committee to be formed for, is that
That-
going to be a second one?
That's not right, that is not something for, if we're talking about, we need a motion for the calendar that you're working on, right? If there's a different task that you want us to do, then that would be a different, that would be a different item.
Okay. All right. So then, what she said. Is there a second? It was amend the motion to vote on just calendar for the 2025-26 school year to 1-2-1, move the PLC to Friday, and task the administration with efficiencies in the PLC time and maximizing the teacher time off.
Would that be clarifying how often they're getting their time off? Every other week or whatever?
Yeah, that's
That
what,
would be- that would be their decision.
it would be them.
Member Fortney, that would be during the IBN process, since that's the end of the
So
motion.
is there a second to that?
Second.
Okay. All in favor of that, say aye.
Aye.
Nay.
Okay. Now, the second part.
So that now the motion has been amended, now you need to vote on approval of that now amended motion.
Okay. So our motion that we are voting on is a one-year calendar for the 2025-26 school year. The 1-2-1, moving PLC to Friday, tasking administration to be efficient with the PLC time and maximizing the teacher's free time. Okay.
Through the IBN process.
IBM process. All right. So that's the motion. Is there a second?
And
And what?
President Busby, do you have that?
Yes, I just couldn't hear. Well, I read it. Is there a motion?
Okay, so it was moved by President Busby.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. Now, we'll do a roll call vote. Member Moore?
Yes.
Nay.
I'm still for the four, so I'm going to say nay as well.
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. So you'll come back to us with specifics for
Through the IBN process, correct.
Okay.
We have to give exact.
All right.
Other than now, we have the start, finish, vacations, and PLCs have been moved to Friday.
All right. So now we can go to 6.1. All right, item 6.1, community forum request presented by Mr. Dolezal.
President Busby, members of the board, administration recommends the governing board approve the request to hold public forums regarding potential school closures, boundary changes, and grade level movement.
Is there a motion? So moved.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Okay. All right, any discussion? This is for just holding the forums. It's not voting on any closures.
Okay, yeah, I think you just need to spend a little more time talking about these things, because we did get, during this has it only been a week?
Time flies.
A lot of questions, a lot of concerns. So I wanted to kind of go back to a couple things that I asked at the beginning of discussions and questions on the 3rd. And a lot of people have this perception that none of the other scenarios were looked at, that it was just always going to be Desert Sun and Lone Mountain. And so my question to Dr. Pletnick and Dr. Hendrickson were the other scenarios looked at? And so I just wanted to kind of clarify. I believe the answer was that by school, we went through all these things, went through all the numbers, went through all the logistics, and weighed the certain metrics about each thing before coming up with that. Can you kind of clarify that for me?
Yes, Member Fortney. And so part of the task that we worked through over that 8-month period was the focus group was given data on every school, enrollment trends, specialized programs, open enrollment, all the same information. And then that first determination was, is there a need to close schools based on capacity? And the consensus was, yes, there's a need to close schools. And so they were then tasked with, what would it look like to close one school? What would it look like to close up to 2 schools? We didn't take it beyond that, even though capacity says that we could close 3 and still have enough seats. And so we worked through, they were giving kind of a worksheet to say, okay, closure scenario A. What school would you close? What would you do with it? Each group came up with their own scenarios based off of it. And so we had scenarios where Black Mountain was closing, going to Lone Mountain and DSA. That was where the breakdown was. Lone Mountain closing, Desert Willow closing. So they looked at everyone, and based on that group, what they saw from all the data, they developed the scenarios of what would make the most sense of not risking losing kids, continuing to support programs. And then at the end of all that, as we kind of dwindled down, it came to a consensus from all members and within all those smaller subgroups that it made the most sense, looking at any school, there's a risk of losing kids outside of the district. But DSA and Lone Mountain were the least risk of losing kids and losing kids that are currently on open enrollment. So that's why that was the recommendation.
Okay, thank you. There was one other thing that I had here. Again, it was a question from the community. And I don't recall if it was explained during the meeting. I know they talked about certain schools are SFD 100%, and Horseshoe Trails was, I believe, 68%, and Desert Sun was 37%, correct?
Correct.
Can you explain?
Lone Mountain.
Lone Mountain. Okay. Can you explain what that 168, 37% means?
Essentially what that means is, as the schools need repairs, HVAC systems, roofs, and so forth, Mr. Santina, who's our maintenance director, is able to place a request for repairs from the SFD and for coverage dollar-wise for those facilities. So an HVAC system breaks down, say at Cactus Shadows, we're 100% covered. If the roof needs repaired, we're 100% covered. If we look at if the roof needs to be repaired at Lone Mountain, we would receive 37% from the state, and then the district would have to pay the difference on that repair cost. So that is, when we're talking about coverage, it's talking about how much we're going to be reimbursed for any of those types of repairs on that facility that qualify under SFD.
Well, can you explain why Desert Willow is 100%, but Lone Mountain is only 37%?
It's based upon what money was used to build. So SFD, what they look at is school capacity. So if, when we go onto the SFD website, they show what our capacity is for each building. And at that point, once you reach a certain amount of capacity, they say, yes, you're in line to build a new building. So, for example, again, way prior to me, even when I was here first in the district, Lone Mountain was built with only a need for a certain amount of students. Therefore, SFD would only cover so much cost. Then, with bond dollars, we covered the rest of the building of that facility. That's where that differential, as much as and historically we have tried to fight that, but that is what SFD does go by, is that percentage.
So we said we needed a new building for 1,000 kids. They said, you don't need it for 1,000 kids, you need it for 370.
Mm-hmm.
And so we built it, but they only paid for 37%.
And our bond money.
And the bond money. So because of that 37%, then in perpetuity,
mm-hmm.
those repairs are also that 37%. Mm-hmm. But like when Black Mountain, when Desert Willow got built, we said the same thing. We need a school for 1,000 kids, and they said, yes, you do need it for 1,000 kids. So then it's 100% covered.
Mm-hmm. And then they give us, the funding
covered
to build the school.
And then everything else is covered after that, 100%. Okay.
And there's no way to ever increase that. So if they said you only need 370, and then we filled that school to capacity, they never make any adjustment.
Unless we grew to capacity. I mean, at this point, and if we close one facility and, one facility does, we fill it and, and then we say we need another school, they're not going to build another school or say, okay, now it's covered. They're going to say you can reopen one of your other facilities, and especially if it's not retired, a retired facility.
And then, I don't know if I missed it, but I know we talked about it in the meeting last week. So Cactus Shadows profit, Sonoran Trails profit. What are, as far as the rankings of the elementaries, can you kind of just refresh me on the profit categories? Or
as far as when we're saying profit, when we're saying how much money weighted ADM versus how much expenditure, and then the weighted
I would say
ADM
whatever the number is, like, I
expenditure.
think you said Cactus was like 2 million?
Yeah.
Okay, just those same numbers, that same kind of formula.
And Member Moore, looking up, one of the things I want to clarify is the purpose of that slide of looking at ADM, weighted ADM, and what we bring in and what we spend at each school was not to demonstrate that some schools are more expensive than others, and so that should be taken into consideration. It was really look at, as a result of that, that's showing our inefficiencies. And so we do not only with capacity, we have the same pocket of money that we're spreading over 5 schools. If we close to 3, that pocket of money is the same size, only spread to 3 schools now. And so it's mainly made to be an efficiency look, not necessarily one's more expensive than the other.
Right. No, I got you.
Okay. And so if you remember back to the presentation I had these numbers listed for all the schools. So you saw the weighted ADM, you saw the expenditure. So all you had to do is subtract essentially if you want to find the difference. So in doing that math for you, when we're looking at DSA, we would be $644,000 in the negative between weighted ADM and M&O expenditures. Lone Mountain, $200,000 on the positive side. Black Mountain, $115,000 on the positive side. We're looking at Desert Willow at $6,700 in the negative. We're looking at Horseshoe Trails, $400,000 in the positive. Sonoran Trails, $828,000 to the positive, and $2.4 million at Cactus Shadows. So again, this is shared between the districts. So all of those numbers you're hearing, the plus and minuses. If you remember back to the AFR presentation, and you remember that pie, and it was also in your December 3rd, any remaining money that after we cover school expenditures based upon the weighted ADM has to go to cover the rest of the district costs. So the other thing you want to look at on this, and looking at this just from, oh, look, that's negative, that's positive. Again, that number, we have to look at it in a couple of different ways. And first way we have to look at it is what different programs we have at the schools. Because that, like I said before, special education is going to impact that. And then moving those weightings to other schools, that's going to follow those students when you do that. You also have to look at, and this is just M&O, so there's other costs with other funds that can come in. And I've heard, well, what if we take PALS out? Well, the difficulty with looking at special ed and taking that out, we could take the 12 students in PALS, decide what their weighted ADM is, pull that out, but then the costs aren't all associated with M&O. Some of the costs are associated with Medicaid, some costs are associated with IDEA, and some resources are shared between. Some teachers go between multiple schools, some teachers go between multiple grade levels. So calculating just that simply, in this business, it is not, here's, when you remember back to economic COGS, and just here's a random product, and what product are you going to go with, and how much does it cost? There's different shared expenses that go between it. So just pulling those students out again, we would have to ask, if we were doing that, why that would be important in respect to we receive additional funding for them, and additional expenses do go with those students, but again, they come from multiple funds. A widget, not a cog.
Oh, I know cogs.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other comments?
We did get a lot of information tonight and via email that I thought was interesting on how day 2 kind of affects or phase 2 affects our phase 1, and looking at those considerations versus just these numbers, even as far as the demolition of dams, and knowing from a developer standpoint or what that space would be used for after the fact. And I think the financial impacts of those is something to consider based on day 2 of each campus, what they could be used for. Was that discussed, or how was that discussed amongst when figuring? I think everybody understands the amount of square footage that we have is too much compared to our enrollment. But as far as repurposing of buildings, I know that's a phase 2, but I would think there's some financial advantages of keeping certain locations compared to others.
Yeah, absolutely. And those talks and what to do with it are ongoing. And in all due respect, land development, we're not in that business right this second. What we're looking at is how we're going to repurpose these schools. Now, if that came with real estate sales, which I believe Mr. Dolezal said we're not going to sell, we also have to have the understanding of how we can repurpose this without charter schools moving in, and how we repurpose our facilities on the education side of things. So knowing how the education system works and knowing all the parts and pieces that go with it and what programs we offer, such as ECS, that can be looked into expansion. I know we had a speaker earlier that talked about vocational offerings in EVIT and satellite campuses. We've had talks with EVIT in the background on that as well. And that goes on that educational side of things. So what that goes into is the leasing, the movement, or really the renting of that space on that side of things. So can we do things on the educational side to increase those revenue streams without selling the property and without renting to charter schools? 100% absolutely. And that's where I think phase 2, it's an important piece.
The forums that we're voting on, give me an idea of how you see these forums, like the format of it.
Thank you, President Busby. So kind of our structure of what we're looking at for the forums is to have kind of a little bit of a pared down presentation. We won't do the full 2-hour presentation with them, but really make it geared towards that site. Looking at, some of the feedback that we've gotten thus far from questions from the board, questions from the committee, to make sure we're clarifying some things. So there's going to be some additions to that presentation that's going to be pared down. And then we're going to kind of have two avenues: an opportunity for community members to ask questions and an opportunity for community members to give comments. So they're going to have both options there. So we'll have a mic. They come up, can give comments on it or submit a question, and then we'll make sure the same question's not getting answered over and over again. We'll kind of go through all those questions and answer those from the panel of cabinet members. So asking questions and then giving comments as well.
Right, so that's the format of the first two, and then the last one is really, the final meeting is really just however much time we decide, and that is ultimately for public comments as required by statute in terms of that. The first two meetings would really be cabinet kind of in the front, reserved seats in the first row for the governing board to be there, and then the third meeting would be the governing board up in front as well as the cabinet kind of on the side, set up at the Fine Arts Center.
Will speakers be limited to, like, here they come, they get 3 minutes to speak? Are they going to be limited to 3 minutes?
Yeah, we would, President Busby, would follow the same protocol for call to the public as we do in a governing board meeting, where depending on the number of speakers, it could be limited to 1 minute if you have more than 20, I believe it is, but then you can combine minutes. So it'll be the same rules that apply that for this meeting tonight is how we would apply them for those.
Okay.
And then, sorry, President Busby, and then the last meeting in board policy says that you have to afford at least an hour. You can afford more than that, but there's a minimum there on that last one where it is just comments.
Will there be any discussion on anything that would possibly be in phase 2?
President Busby, no, this would strictly be on, based on the recommendation from Cabinet on the 2 closures for families, community members, teachers to give their feedback on do they like it, do they not like it, why not, and questions to get clarification on what will happen to my kids if they're now zoned for this school, how do I apply for open enrollment, whatever questions might pop up.
And President Busby and members of the board, it is also a time for people to say, have you thought about this, or here's an idea, that type of thing. Ultimately, again, through whether it's through meetings, emails, in-person talks, otherwise, comments at those forums or board meetings where public comments are being held. Ultimately, for the 28th, then we would bring a final recommendation at that point in time. That recommendation could be, as it sits now, it could be different from that. So I just wanted to clarify again that there's that. The point of going out there is we want to do right by our kids, we want to do right by our community, and we want to listen in terms of what people think, what they say. How can we do this? How can we make a rough, tough situation and make it the best that we can, again, now and moving forward into the future?
Where are the forums going to be held here?
No. So January 8th would be held at Desert Sun Academy, January 9th at Lone Mountain, and then January 13th is that public meeting, that forum, and that would be at the Fine Arts Center.
Now, I have a couple of questions. If there's findings, because we've heard from developers, we've received emails as well of capacity at one campus versus another, or how to move one campus to another one so you're not splitting up a school. If that changes, at what time will those recommendations be changed? Like if day 2 actually phase 2 brings out a different possibility, how would that be changed if it included a different campus that's not on here, or if the zoning of students
So
going
if-
from one campus to another changes?
Vice President Walker, so if I hear you correctly, if you're saying what would the process be to do something other than the 2 schools that are currently mentioned, a different school, the same timeline and all of that would be required in terms of having, so if we want to go by the 28th, if there was a school that you wanted to put up on there, then I would say you need to tell us that you want another school up. And then we would need to go out and communicate that to that school and add that. And then on the 28th, that might be an option. If, again, based on feedback, we look at, nope, Desert Sun Academy and Lone Mountain, and sending Desert Arroyo to the SFB for demolition, that's not it. Whether that's us coming back and saying after feedback, hey, you know what? Our final recommendation is going to be this instead, but we can't make any recommendation different than what is here now. If we're going to do something different, then that would create another timeline to make sure that we're legally within those, legally within the timeline.
Okay, so if we have these public forums and there is some suggestion that actually has some realistic possibilities, you can't amend a recommendation to the board based on information you may have gained from.
So let me give you the example of Paradise Valley last year. So they originally started with 4 schools that they were discussing, that the superintendent brought forth 4 schools, the committee that did the work. During the course of those meetings, all of that, it came to their attention. There was a geographical location for one of the schools, and ultimately then the superintendent's final recommendation was 3 of those schools instead of 4. They could not have taken that 4th school and said, oh no, we're going to leave that one open, but now we're going to bring in this one we hadn't talked about before at all.
I understand. I'm just saying.
Right, well,
there's something.
Correct. If there's something and we sit there and go, nope, again, if it hits our whys and our, we don't know, and again, that's good for students and ultimately financial positions and all of that, then we could bring a different recommendation on that 28th. If we brought the recommendation the 28th, we could not go outside of those because we hadn't held the appropriate meetings for a different school. However, it would be within the board's right as well to say, okay, you've recommended closing Desert Sun and Lone Mountain.
We could amend it to close one.
Correct.
Okay.
And if in fact you didn't like which schools got put up, then you'd have to start the process over again, is what you're saying.
Yes.
And any school that we're going to discuss closure for, we need to follow the same guidelines in terms of public forums and then a public meeting at least 10 days before a vote comes to close.
Got it.
That brought up another thing what they just said. Can you guys, real quick as you can, whatever, can you explain the thought process between closing one school now and one later and closing 2 now? The decision being to close 2 now. Can you explain why that was chosen over 1 now, 1 later?
I'll defer to Mr.
Well,
Dolezal.
Member Fortney, I'm going to start one way, and then I can defer as well back to you in terms of numbers and space. So starting with numbers and space, in terms of what we're using, we're at 45% of capacity between 5 schools. Closing 2 schools only brings us district-wide to 61% capacity. That's a school. Black Mountain would be at 67%. Desert Willow 50, I believe 51%, and Horseshoe Trails low 60% in terms of that occupancy. So again, we still have additional room to continue to grow. I know that's one of the myths that we keep hearing is, oh my goodness, class size is going to balloon and go up. Well, teachers are going to follow the kids. We're going to continue to follow our board policy in terms of staffing and things like that. But really, that was more of Dr. Hendrickson's numbers that I stole there. But really, for me, talked to some superintendents that have gone through this before. One of the biggest mistakes, one of the biggest regrets they have is when they look at the data and it clearly shows that 2 schools should be closed. They closed 1. It's devastating. This is hard on the community. It is emotional. It's supposed to be. These are our kids, our schools we're talking about. To then turn around and do that same exact thing 1 or 2 years later because you saw what was coming. You saw where the demographer's pointing. You saw all of that. To put your community through that emotional turmoil twice in that type of proximity, that's part of the reason why we're looking at 2 schools. Again, and Dr. Hendrickson, if you want to talk more from a space issue, if I missed something or didn't.
No, I think it's the emotional toll. We already see that this is an emotional toll, and part of the risk of we say you're not closing this year, but we're going to continue to evaluate you. What is the long-term risk of those parents going, well, I know it's going to close, so why am I going to stay here? Or the teacher leaving that school because thinking that there was closed. And though I don't have any data on it, I think that's some of the things we've heard about families that have left Desert Sun is, well, I'm not going to enroll there. I'm leaving there because every year we're here, they're going to close. And so that probably has had an impact on Desert Sun's enrollment. And so there's a risk you run with that.
Yeah, that's a fair statement. Even in talking to the community and visiting Desert Sun, that was the biggest takeaway for me was that gray cloud and being how we are a small community and we like to talk. It just, the rumor mill gets going and then the stigma is planted and next thing you know, we're rowing the boat.
I mean, it's a very emotional and difficult topic to have to discuss. It stinks, actually. I love this district. I love everything about it, but I try to look at this as an opportunity to be better because change does bring opportunity. And so exploring the option of closing these schools, there may be some really good upsides that will bring some very positive things to the district. And, it's tough. There's no other way to put it. So, any other comments? Okay, so we've got this motion to approve, what are we approving? The community forum. So all in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay. Item 7.1, upcoming calendar events presented by Mr. Dolezal.
President Busby, members of the board, winter break is December 23rd through January 3rd. Classes will resume on Monday, January 26th. January 21st, 2025 is our next community forum, which is titled Understanding Drug Trends in Your Community. I really encourage and welcome our families and overall our entire community to attend from 6 to 7 p.m. on January 21st at the Fine Arts Center.
Okay. 6 to 7 p.m. at FAC. All right. Item 8, adjournment. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. We are adjourned, and it is 8:34.